And we will be live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. How are you? We are live. My name is Jason J. Daniel. Thanks for joining joining me and Mark for the Jason J. Daniel Show. We're live on X, Rumble, YouTube, Twitch. We're in Northern California. We're actually everywhere, right, Mark? We're everywhere, all over the world. That's why we're using the internet to reach people. I want to say thank you to Mark Haney for joining me. Am I saying that, Mark? Is it Haney? Is that the best way to say it?
Yeah. Thank you, Jason.
So some people have, they for the first time meeting, you want to make sure this is our first time meeting, guys, and I want to say thank you, Mark, for joining me for the show. I'm an entrepreneur by trade, and I do everything I can to take my ideas and make them real. I am a visionary, and I consider myself a visionary. I guess the proof is in the pudding. But the fact that we're even talking right now, the fact that we're live, the fact that we're doing this is a result of me just deciding, hey, I want to create something from scratch. I want to do something with my vision. And I have a lot of time and experience in that, but not everybody has that instinct. But I do believe it can be developed. And coaching is really important. And throughout the years, I've had great mentors. So I was looking for some mentors, some business coaches, and some folks that actually are really successful entrepreneurs like you. So thank you for joining us. And please let the audience know who you are. I have a bio for you, but go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Mark Haney. I live outside the Sacramento area and grew up in this region. I have been married 40 years. I've got 2 children, 7 grandchildren. We live on a family compound called Haneyville. That's really why I do what I do. And my business is called the Growth Factory. I have a number of businesses, but the one that I am somewhat known for around the Sacramento region is the Growth Factory, which is a entrepreneurial development group with an accompanying venture capital fund. And we invest into startups. I began angel investing, and ultimately that was working well. That was subsequent to me starting a podcast called The Mark Haney Show. So I'd been kind of dabbling in investing in entrepreneurship in the region after selling my companies. And my team and I decided to start the Growth Factory, which is really an effort to build the backyard advantage, the most connected community in the world for local entrepreneurs. And it's centered around this culture of love. So we engineer wins for one another in a way that's extremely unique. So not only do we invest capital, we find a way to help these entrepreneurs get traction and hopefully that next round of funding.
Wow. So you said a lot. I've watched your YouTube channel and you have mentioned love before. Okay. So usually I've got to say, successful entrepreneurs, they're like killers, man. They're like, they're kind of sharp elbows, right? Last time I've heard an entrepreneur talk about love, I can't even quite remember when that. So that's really stands out to me. Obviously, the compound, taking care of the family is super cool. Family's so important. I mean, there's so many layers to that. I want to ask about that too. But can you break down what love means to you? Because I'm going to be honest, I'm not good at love.
Well, I mean,
I've failed that test so many times. What does love mean to you?
So to me, it's not just a fuzzy feeling, although that's part of it. It's an action. And I think so many times in business, we're a little bit afraid to show that emotion. But if we think about what happens when we have a successful relationship, and in business, you need to have successful relationships, and those are often really deep relationships. And so you have to put yourself out there in order to develop that relationship. And so I think it starts with almost like a give first sort of attitude and a pay it forward sort of philosophy. And if you begin to do that with your teammates, with your business partners, with your investors, in our case, and you begin to show that you are adding value to them, then they want to reciprocate. And the next thing you know, you've built this, I guess, culture of love, right? This way of acting among a certain tribe. I have done that in the businesses that I built where we've had hundreds of employees and we had that culture of everybody working together as a team. And you could call that I call that a culture of love, when we're showing love to one another. And if the love is, strong enough, then you have a darn strong team. It's really part of what makes good teams great. And so that's what we're working on here in Sacramento. And so it's really like a tribe, if you will, with 100+ investors, 100+ mentors. We have corporate partners with different corporations around the city of Sacramento and municipalities. And everybody wants to help Sacramento win. So when our local startup community wins, starts bringing other people's money from the Bay Area or customers from around the world or venture capital from around the world into Sacramento, that's really good for everybody. And why not help your neighbor? Why we could be working on helping other people from around the world, which is fine. But I have the attitude to sort of work from the inside out, work on myself, work on my family, work on my friends and business partners, and hopefully, in turn, that's helping our community and our country.
It starts at home. It really, really does. You have just such a wealth of knowledge. 40 years, you said you've been married. Okay. That right there puts you right up here in my list of experts because I don't know a lot of people that have done. Now, my parents have done that. They crossed their 50. I know, I'm giving my age away, but that's a rare thing. So you clearly are a person that understands relationships and community when you're talking about it, right? And that's
Well,
really
I think it proves one thing for sure is that I'm a damn good salesman because I married the most beautiful woman in the world, and she's managed to stay with me. So it proves at least that.
well, definitely, and you have a good picker. Boom. And also, partnership is so key in so many levels. I think in life, right? So if you have a struggle being a partner at one level, it will, I believe, carry over to other levels. So yeah, so I believe in the holistic entrepreneur, right? You talk about Sacramento. You're in the Sacramento area. I had a business in Sacramento, and that's why I was connected to what you do. Just as when I found you, so one of the things that you do is you have the growth factory, like and so you were saying over 100 entrepreneurs in the network that are in this community.
Well, we've helped thousands of entrepreneurs in the Sacramento region through our events and through programs that we run with the Sacramento Kings or the City of Roseville, the City of Rockland, El Dorado County, and all over. So we help a lot of entrepreneurs generally. It's just kind of the way we operate. But specifically, we have a venture portfolio where we make investments. We write checks into early stage companies. I began angel investing where I was writing checks with my own money and got invested into about 50 companies. And I ended up having this party in my backyard. And I started telling people about my vision of what if we all loved each other, right? I had all my business partners that I invested into and a couple of other people that had helped me along the way with my podcast. Said, what if we had a group of successful business partners in our hometown that all loved each other? What kind of impact could we make? And that message sort of began to catch on. And so one of my teammates, a couple of my teammates joined me in starting the Growth Factory. So really we're in some ways a typical venture capital fund, but we're really uniquely positioned to add value because of the hyper local effect and the way that we take in data to understand how to help each of our portfolio and even in our investors get help as well.
That sounds like a party I want to go to. One, okay. Two. I've been to some parties where that's been a conversation, but it wasn't going into business. So I love that. Always business focused. So do you find that as part of being an entrepreneur, as part of building the community, that it's like in you 24/7? That's how I feel. Every time I wake up, every time I look at something, I read something, I'm always thinking, my mind's always growing. So is that kind of the basis for actually being a good investor? That's where I'm going with this. having that?
I don't know. I'm sure there's all kinds of traits that make a good investor or a good entrepreneur. We can talk about that in terms of what do I think about when I get up in the morning? I get up at zero dark 30, and I actually have a routine that I do. It's almost like a meditation type thing, but it's where I really begin to think about what's important to me. And I reflect back on a mission statement I wrote a number of years ago around creating opportunity for my family, friends, and community. And as they succeed, I succeed. So I think about that mission. I think about what kind of dad I want to be, grandfather I want to be, business person I want to be. And I try to get myself in a winning mindset at the beginning of the day. I will admit that, I drift. I work out and I get ultra focused on, it might be yoga or CrossFit or something like that. And then if I'm in business, a business meeting, I do my best to stay as focused as I can there. But I really, I suppose it's always in you because your mission statement, mine is tattooed to my soul. So it's always with me, but hopefully I can compartmentalize a little bit and focus on, playing with the grandkids or, spending time with my wife, talking about how great we're going to be and things like that.
So what is the mission statement that's tattooed?
Yeah, with future generations. So what happened is I sold my company, and I had a group of security companies, largest video security, independent video security distributor in the country, and we had 4 other companies associated with it, and a few $100 million in sales. We ended up exiting that business, and I helped through the transition. And so I was at one of those points in my life where I really didn't know what I was going to do. Am I going to, stay a security camera salesman? And I decided, well, even though I haven't decided yet, I can decide basically the direction I want to go. And so I wrote my mission statement sort of as a North Star. So with future generations in mind, I will help create opportunity for my family, my friends, and my community. And as they succeed, I succeed. So I've been thinking about that in all the big decisions I've made over the last several years.
So you keep that as your compass.
Am I helping create opportunity for those people, for the people I care about most?
Yeah, and that's actually, I love that because when I started a salon, it actually fell into my hands. And one of the main reasons I did it was I could keep my friends in a job. The salon closed overnight. I had 7 hairdressers who needed work. And if somebody didn't step up, I think I had a 3-day, notice to take that. So, and then the other one was, it was a smart move for me. I got it at like a bottom barrel, it was a fire sale. I got everything turnkey and all that, and it worked out. And then I was able to sell it to a really good friend. And then she sold, and it's still there. The building's still there. Everybody, it's like kind of in the family. So I can feel that sense of community and like the mission to have others be successful. Because if you're not, I believe, tell me what you think. If everything you do in business or entrepreneurship doesn't make others better and help others succeed, then what are we doing? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, interesting. So for me, it might even be a selfish feeling. When my younger brother and I built these businesses, we had hundreds of employees, and many of them, we started small. We recruited people that worked for our, that went to high school with us, and we had a chain of video stores prior to the security. So it was people that were our friends, and they were coming to help us, and a lot of them came at reduced wages and those kind of things. And so as we grew, it created all kinds of opportunity for people to become promoted and take on more responsibility and make more money and buy their first house, become millionaires, and so on. So that was a really rewarding feeling for me. So that's, so in some ways it feels a little bit selfish, but in reality, it feels good to help other people. And as I began to get in touch with, man, if I pull over, let's say there's a woman, her car stranded in the middle of the intersection, and I decide, I'm the first one to pull up. That makes me want to jump out, and I'm going to be the one that jumps out and helps her push it out of the intersection. And of course, she's happy, hopefully, but I feel good for the rest of the day. You know what I mean? So there's something, even almost selfish by doing great, nice things for other people. And in the way we've set up our, I would say my life is, as my friends, family, and community succeeds, I think it circles back around and I succeed, which is really,
Yeah.
something that's, I guess, giving, but it's also, I don't know, like almost like a rising tide lifts both of our ships.
That's a great way to put it. In fact, I believe those folks that can do that naturally, it's a natural gift. I think some folks are naturally gifted to be an entrepreneur as well as be a leader and other things. One of the things that I like to ask mentors and business leaders that I talk to is, how do you know you're an entrepreneur? Like, I remember, like, when I was in church when I was a young guy, and I was there was this thing where, like, how do you know God's talking to you? Well, you just kind of wait until right? And then
Mhm.
the you're motivated, and the teaching you teach, you prepare, right? But so I try to put that into every step of my life as I've gotten older. But a lot of people, I think, struggle with that. Do I work for someone for years? Do I just go down that path? But am I an entrepreneur? Am I not? There's a lot of social media pressure on younger folks to be famous and rich and wealth, all these things, that all the messages. But how do you know if you got it? What's your thought?
Yeah, good question. I'm not caught up in the term entrepreneur, although I don't think I even knew what an entrepreneur was when I was a kid. That term wasn't
Right.
used. And so as I built my video stores, I wasn't thinking, am I an entrepreneur? My security businesses, I never really thought that. But one of the things that I see, so I started a podcast in 2010, and I've interviewed a lot of the success stories around Sacramento and a lot of the entrepreneurs. And something that is common with the most successful entrepreneurs is taking risk. Now, I think it's a risk if you quit your job or you invest your time into something. There's a certain amount of risk in that, but the most successful entrepreneurs tend to really put it out there and take more risk. I would say go all in many cases. And I think when you are at that stage, when you've made the sacrifices and taken the incredible risks, I think it's fair to say that you're an entrepreneur, especially if you have that kind of skin in the game. It can be scary, and so entrepreneurship, it can be extremely rewarding, but it's never easy.
Wow, you're touching my heart, honestly. Like, thank you. I'm just, like, getting fed by this. I got my own. It's just a seminar for me, guys. Just everybody, stop watching. No, this is what you're saying is amazing. Because I can really connect with that. Also, everybody watching, follow him on YouTube. Follow him, subscribe. So you talked about risk, and you're reading my mind, Mark. You're reading my mind, because I think it's really important for people to understand what is striking the right deal or the right move versus risk. And you have to minimize, but you also have to think big. So are you somebody that just goes with your gut on risk? I mean, obviously you're experienced, and now you kind of, like, know, okay, here are the factors that can be successful if I take this type of risk. But earlier in your career, you had to take some risks in order to get to those next levels. What is that? What does that feel like for somebody who has to do that for the first time?
Yeah, I can speak for me for sure. I have a personality where I'm sort of a dreamer, and I like to imagine things that are a little bit fantastical, if you will. Like, oh, that's not possible. And so if I can get it to that level where it's like, wow, it's so cool, it might be impossible, then that's sort of it makes me think about it all the time, and you really continue to tap into my imagination and really inspire me. So that's sort of what I've done. I mean, on my family compound, it's the most magical place on earth outside Disneyland, right? So to me, it's like I try to put it out there that it's like
I got to stop you. You just said I built a compound. That's Disney's one, my compound's two. All right, go. Okay, I had to just
Okay, but even I'm talking about building, the backyard advantage, the most connected community for local entrepreneurs, and it's based around this culture of love. So that sounds kind of fantastical, and I've been working on this for a while. So I think if you have enough imagination, enough inspired action, enough stick-to-itiveness, even a fantastical type dream or an impossible type dream can be figured out. And so that's sort of like behind me. I've got the yes if. That's a kind of a motto I live by, and I think a lot of people they create they create a life that they're not inspired to get up in the morning for. And I think if we can create a life that is like super exciting, I did that with my security camera companies, largest in the country. Right, my video stores, we were like the largest in Sacramento with 12 stores, and now I'm doing that to helping veterans too. We have the largest skill bridge program in the country that my son runs, and so we help people as they're getting out of the military. It's called Allegiant Vets. So we help veterans at scale out of the Sacramento area, but we help them all over the world.
Can you say one thing again? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just was excited, but you building a life that you were excited about, getting up. I think that is really part of being an entrepreneur. When I was actively doing hair, I did it for 10 years, and it was time when it was time to retire. I did and move to other things. I was excited about it. I loved it, and not just the art of it, but I loved the community. I loved that I'm doing this thing and that I can get up and take my destiny into my own hands. What would you say to somebody who maybe took a risk, took too many risks, and now they are living a life that they're not happy with? How do you reset that paradigm and go, okay, let's get into a situation where I can build a life that I'm happy with? I
would say don't beat yourself up, because it's happened to all of us. We've taken risks, made mistakes, and you got to regroup. I've asked my wife. That happens to me every day, so I'm always regrouping at some level.
Yeah.
So don't beat yourself up too bad, or if after you do, get over it and figure out what you're going to do. Because I think that's the biggest question we have to ask is, what am I going to do with what I got? Right? What are you going to do with what you got? And we're all at a different place. So if you're at that point where you're maybe working two jobs, trying to regroup and survive, I would say create some amount of downtime, whether it be really 0 dark 30 in the morning like I do, or go to Cabo and have a getaway, but decide what you really want. And then, once you begin to decide that, then sort of think about that a lot, and maybe even for me, I like to create a vision of what that looks like. So, and then you can start taking baby steps toward that. You don't have to quit both jobs and go, do it again. I would say assess your strengths, what kind of capabilities, what are your biggest assets and resources? Because what are you going to do with what you got begins with what do you got, right? So you got a little bit of money to invest? Do you have a little bit of time to invest? Do you have expertise? Do you have people that would help fuel? Do you have wisdom? What do you got? Now, how can you sort of parlay that into that vision that you may have created for yourself?
I love that. How do you determine what is, by the way, I love what you said about just a regrouping, right? And failure, a lot of people, it becomes a cliche, right? Fail a lot, fail a bunch. Failure doesn't matter. Our failures make us rich. There's all these cliches on failure, but feeling the failure, the pain of failure, that's a whole nother story. Living through a failure. Mm-hmm. So what about resources? You were just mentioning that. How do you identify what is a resource and where I can put that resource into my vision, right? So yes, you're a huge visionary. That's why we're doing this. I want to talk to visionaries that are a little wild, right? I'm a big visionary too. And sometimes people like to match their vision with their resources. What if you have a big vision and not a lot of resources, or maybe you don't know what the resources are? How would you advise someone that's trying to balance that?
Yeah, I would say that to really assess that, you do need to cut out some downtime. So because you need to spend some amount of time assessing that. If you're going to do that in 5 minutes, it might be a little bit difficult. But what I did is I got a big dry erase board. You can kind of see the wall behind me. It's a big dry erase board, and you can work on this exercise. Here's something that you might think about as you're doing this is, I don't know if you've ever heard of the term ikigai. It's a Japanese term. It's kind of like finding your calling. Now, this doesn't really necessarily directly tie to what are your resources, but I can kind of get to that. So if you're trying to decide a little bit about like, what do you want to do and you haven't decided, but this ikigai exercise, part of it actually taps into, it's actually the intersection between four things. What do you love? Because if you love something and passionate about, that's actually an asset. That's something. Like, what are you good at? That's huge, right? So that's a huge thing. So it's the intersection between what do you love, what are you good at, what does the world need, and how can you make it financially viable? How can you get paid for it? So that can help you. I'm almost like from a visual standpoint, if you're visual, and begin to connect dots so that you're working on things that are maybe more practical, because there's some common sense. What are you going to do with what you got? There's some common sense and being practical associated with that. Dream fantastical, but begin with some of the things that already sort of make you tick and who you are. And a lot of times we lose track or we forget that the fact that we learned leadership skills maybe 10 or 20 years ago in what we were doing, but it still exists. We may forget about that, or I'm good with my hands, mechanically, or I'm good with people, right? People love me. I'm charismatic potentially. And the group of friends and people that might follow us or want to help us is interesting. So those kind of things are there, but really one of the biggest assets we have, money obviously is there, but and other kinds of financial assets. But realistically, our time is probably one of the most precious assets that we have. And what I see with people, they never spend the time to carve this out. Instead, they're watching Netflix, going to the Kings game. I love watching TV and going to Niners games and Kings games and all that kind of stuff, concerts. That's good, but if you're not on track, and you want to make a major shift in your life as part of your regroup mode, you're going to have to carve out some of the things that really don't tie very well to what you're trying to do, and kind of minimize the amount of time you spend wasted.
You can never get time back.
People waste time all the time. I see it every day. I see it in myself, but it's for sure people that are more successful figure out a way to allocate those resources more effectively, right? Which is, what are you going to do with what you got? Good decision making around that. And again, that big resource is your time. That big resource for most people is their time. If you're the CEO of Federal Express, the question is still the same. What am I going to do with what I got? But it might be you're dealing with trucks and shareholders and packages that actually have to be there overnight. There's all kinds of things that person deals with that maybe I don't or you don't. But everybody has to answer that question if they're going to be effective in execution.
Well, yeah, being a good steward of your time, if you're not doing that when you don't have a lot going on, you're never going to get a lot going on, because how you get a lot going on is being a good steward of your time. And then that's how you manage those things. And like
one of the things too that I would say is nobody builds a truly great life alone. Everybody, and so I think people get shy about sharing their innermost thoughts, right? Oh, I have this fantastical vision of millionaire business partners in my backyard that all love each other, or building the most magical place on earth,
like a compound
land, right? Or I'm going to be the fittest man in my hometown when I'm 85 years old. Well, if you don't share that vision, nobody's coming to help you, right? So you have to, if you want to do it, go it alone. That's good luck to you. But the most effective people don't build these truly great things alone. They find a way to share, I'd say, an inspired vision something that other people can see themselves in. And, they're not shy, or if they're shy about sharing it, they get over that shyness and they begin to share it.
Yeah, that's why when I bring folks on to interview them, I say, okay, I'm going to do my sound check. Give me your 20 seconds. Give me your 30 seconds, right? I want to know what you think about you at the moment. Like, I think that's really telling. How do you tell your story? So that brings me to, I mean, you're saying so much great stuff. And so you just mentioned partnership or sharing the vision. How do you find the right partner? Because I think that's timing, number one. And two, it's got to be where you're at in your life. Can you sustain a partnership, right? Are you ready for it? So tell me what your thoughts are on finding a right business partner.
I think one of the things it starts with is, I mentioned it, getting rid of your fear about sharing your vision. And there's actually a children's book out there called "What Do You Do with a Good Idea?" It takes about 10 minutes to read, maybe 5 minutes to read it, but it applies not just to children; it applies to all of us if we've got an idea, and it kind of references the need to share the idea, and then how it takes on a life of its own, and people begin to help add to the idea, and so on. But I think one of the things that I found is the first few people that you begin to put in your life are very important. If you're riding around in a car with a bunch of bozos, you're going to attract bozos into your car and into your party. And so I think it really being selective around who you spend your time with is probably, really, really important. So, have a family that you're proud of. You'll build a family that you're proud of. Build a friend group that you're proud of. And I think people will be more attracted to you as a business partner, as a person, if you're not running around with a bunch of bozos. Number one, you're only gonna attract bozos. So I think that's pretty important. But you said timing. I think that's very important. But I think putting yourself in the right place at the right time. So depending on what kind of partner you're trying to attract, if it's business, you might want to put yourself like if you're extremely driven. So how do you put yourself out there in a place where people either in your industry are really driven, or in your, I guess, stage in life are really driven? I think that's important. And one of the things I think people forget about is going to work is such an opportunity to attract a business partner. If you are the hardest working, get there early, stay late, man, that person is shocking me with how committed they are to, what might look like a dead end job to everybody else. I'm working at a pizza parlor, or I'm, it's just Starbucks or whatever. It's like, wait a minute. Your customers, your other employees, your next business partner might surprise you. You never know who's going to walk through those doors, or might be working right alongside you, who's got the badass idea that you might be a part of, and they might recruit you if you're. I mean, that's what I did. I took some of my best employees from, other things that I was doing and people that I worked in high school with, and I recruited them because. Even young men and men that I coached in football and baseball, these people ended up being some of my best employees as they got out of high school and so on. So the coach is always looking, and you never know who might be the ideal business partner. So it's okay to be great. I think that's a lot of times we decide, well, this is a time when I don't have to be great because it's just a dead end job, or I'm just out here playing football or baseball in high school or college. Wait a minute. People are attracted to people who do everything they can to be great at something, even if it's making coffee.
Winning, being great is a form of winning. I believe, and people are attracted to winning and attracted to people that push themselves to the level of excellence.
Well, you're never going to get anybody's attention doing it the same way as everybody else. So if you want to stand out, you are going to have to be different in some way. And so if you try to build a business that's the same as everybody else, or you try to be an employee that's the same as everybody else, well, good luck in being truly successful.
100%. In fact, in some businesses like hair, for example, I can speak for that industry. We all go to school, we learn the same stuff. You do a haircut the same way. I can't change a haircut and you do it. It's not going to work. There's certain fundamentals you cannot change. But what separates us? Like you can do a really great haircut. I can do a really great haircut because we're following how it works. A line is a line, right? But I would always teach because I had a workshop for folks coming out of cosmetology school to transition because that's a real, as you know, that's really tough transitioning from school to putting things into practice and making money. One of the things we would coach is you have to be you. You have to be uniquely you in an industry where everybody has to be the same to be successful, right? With the technique, right? You have to have it. Now you can put your flair on it once you are a master after you've done your years and hours. So what are your thoughts on the uniqueness, like finding your unique skill set?
I think so many people are embarrassed about their differences, right? It's their, oh, you're weird or whatever. And it's like, it's okay to be weird. I mean, that's probably a gift. You know, if you have some unique thing about you, a certain flair or a certain personality type that's a little weird, I would say tap into that because it probably has value. And I would maybe, I'd play into that a little bit and see if you can turn it into something because really it's the uniqueness that is important for building a business. And so I think really if you have some unique quality about you, that can really be a differentiator for how you fit onto a team. And I think society, our school systems, I mean, and maybe even our parents, we're taught to get in line, do your job. There's these standards that have been set by society. And a lot of times we like try to sort of play into those standards. And if I can play at that level, I'm happy with myself. And that's fine. But if you can find a way to be unique and maybe better in a way that most people wouldn't understand is better, but you know you can build it into something better. Now you have that like dark horse sort of idea that that could really be a long shot to bet on. If you know it could work and most people don't, you might have something that's really worth betting on. And once you know that might work, I think it is time to go all in. But I would say test out that uniqueness or that weirdness or that crazy idea and see what kind of traction you get because it might just be, something that really sets you apart and creates a real opportunity or real success for yourself.
Yeah, and I've tried to not, you're talking about over leveraging it, right? Getting too into your uniqueness and losing sight on the fundamentals, right? I believe if you have, like, when it comes back to being a cosmetologist, if you're really wild and you got the wild hair, the look, you're over the top unique, but you can't, do a simple hair color, right? You're good for nothing but being weird, right? So I do think fundamentals will that mix with your other skill sets and your uniqueness will take you to another level. Because when you're talking about tribe earlier, that's a big deal. I believe hair is tribal. I think everything about us is tribal. We have to find our tribe if we are leaning into who we really are, but we got to figure out who we are. So how would you isolate your most important, is there a most important skill as an entrepreneur, like, or as a business leader? How would you isolate that? How do you know what you're the best at when it comes to this? Is that?
Yeah, good question. I don't know that I have what's most important, but I think I would say there are three important qualities that I look for in a business partner. So these are things that I think successful people, these are people that I'm attracted to. So okay. People with extreme commitment. So if you're one of those people that is giving everything to have to this opportunity or to this job, or you've got skin in the game in a big way, I'm automatically sort of interested in that. And even if I'm coaching football and I've got somebody out there that is coming in early and staying late for extra sprints or extra work, it's like, wait a minute, I'm sort of attracted to that. So I look for commitment. I also look for, if I'm making an investment into a founder, I look for the same thing. I also look for humility. I'm attracted to people that they're really they don't know it all, and they don't over talk a situation, and are really cocky. I mean, some people may be attracted to that at some level as a fan, but if I'm looking for a business partner or I'm looking for a deeper relationship, I want to be around people that want to know what I think, and that are open to coaching potentially, and have a certain amount of humility to that. Because I mean, everybody has to say, even though we make a strong commitment in business, for sure, we're going to end up pivoting. And so if you aren't humble enough to understand that, you might have to change your direction, attack from a different direction, then you're going to go out of business, right? Every business ends up pivoting. All startups end up pivoting, but even bigger companies end up with difficult decisions around pivots.
It's a great
So
point.
that's important. And then I think the other thing that I look for in a friend, a business partner, or somebody that I want to spend time with is authenticity. I don't want to be around bullshitters nonstop in my life. I can only take so much of that. I want to be around people that can let themselves be a little bit vulnerable and can be really be themselves. So you said earlier, you just got to be yourself. And I completely agree with that. If you're, some people might say fake it till you make it, which is, there's probably some truth in that as being part of the strategy. But really deep down, we need to be authentic with the people we care about most.
I love that. I do think that when you put yourself around authentic people, it draws that out of you. It makes you teachable. You said so many great things. I recalled a time in my life where I realized I'm not coachable. I had this revelation. I'm like, nobody can tell me anything. Like, somehow I got into this place where I really thought I don't know if I thought I knew it all, or through hardships you kind of develop a wall, but I realized no one can tell me anything. So I started to seek out mentors, and I also realized part of my problem was I have put myself in such a unique situation in a lot of business and a lot of things in my life that most people don't quite understand it. I'm not traditional. I'm kind of crazy, right? And so I became uncoachable because I just felt like no one can coach me. And you start to isolate yourself. And so I decided to find a mentor. But how would you, in a situation where being transparent and being approachable, being, a great team player, essentially being a good team player and being able to be coached when that's so important, how does someone kind of test that within themselves? How do they, I made some mistakes and realized it, but if you're not going to make those mistakes, or that's on the way, how do you find that out? Like, how do you know if you're coachable, if people can work with you? How do you just test that in yourself?
I think it's an interesting thing because self-awareness is an important skill for developing relationships. And if you're really serious about this, I would say to anybody out there to maybe ask somebody who knows them well, who they really respect. Hopefully there's somebody in your life that you know well, that you really respect, and get some feedback. And it might be somebody you work with. Maybe it's like if you work in a small business, typically the owner of the small business is going to have an opinion that he or she doesn't necessarily share because they're trying to inspire you or get you to do your job or what have you. But or your coworkers, they just want to get along, right? They're not out to provide tough feedback. But I think if you are truly open to hearing the truth, then I think you just got to ask a little bit if you can. But hopefully it's somebody that already cares about you, so they have reason to give you honest feedback instead of just, look, I don't want to rock the boat. I'm just going to tell you, you're a nice guy. You're great. The honest feedback is a lot more important. I don't know that the superficial feedback is really that helpful.
Well, it goes back to bozos in the car, right? Because you're just going to head to the circus eventually, right? Mm-hmm. So it's about that. Also, in one of your YouTube videos I watched, you were talking about solitude and aloneness being the death of an entrepreneur, or the death of vision. Is that kind of where you're going when you talk about these things, like finding people you trust or people that can speak into your life?
Yeah, I think what I've seen with entrepreneurs is they try to build a business alone. That's my nobody builds a truly great company alone. Nobody builds a truly great life alone. And I think people that try to go it alone tend to get lonely, and that can turn into almost like a um, because it's going to be difficult, and when you're going through difficult things alone, that can be a struggle. And I think a lot of people end up quitting because they can't stand the aloneness. But if you could have somebody or a group of people that are in it with you that can help, inspire confidence in one another. So pick me up when I'm down, I'll pick you up when you're down, and stuff like that. Because everybody's going to go through tough things in their personal life. They're going to go through difficult things at work. And so it's nice to have somebody, at least for me, it's really nice to have somebody else that going through it with me. And I think most people are like that. And the other thing about that is people aren't good at everything. People, you may think that you are, right? That might be part of the self-awareness thing, is I'm better at everything than everybody else. Well, that's probably not true. Some people really understand a product really well. Some people really understand sales and marketing really well. Some people really understand finance and the money side of things really well. But to find that person that's gifted on everything is a rare thing. And with ChatGPT and other AI, it's easier to get those that smart information at your fingertips. But there's nothing like the human touch of being in a sounding board with other people that can help you make difficult decisions and stay inspired.
Yeah, a sounding board, inspiration. I really love that. You're just speaking my language. I feel like that my sounding board. I have a few close relatives that know me, and then I have a mentor that knows me on that level, and not personally. I mean, we are personal, but stays in that boundary for me. And I think you should build that community. So is that what you would advise if someone is like watching this and they're like, because people are going to be a lot of people watching this, and they're like, well, I don't know what this looks like. I don't have anybody I can trust. I don't got any friends. No one understands me. How would they start to build that community?
I'd say one at a time, one day at a time, and then one interaction at a time. And I think it's a give first way of doing things. Because I always find that when people do something nice for me, it makes me want to do something nice back, even if that's open the door for me going into Starbucks. I would always say thank you if somebody did that. So I think it's some of that just starts with basic kindness, and it's amazing how that the compounding effect of being kind all the time, how that can be valuable and help gain you respect. Because even if you even if I don't know you well enough yet to respect you in how you cut hair, uh, you're a kind person, you're a nice guy, and you've invited me to come on your show, and so there's automatic mm, feeling of respect and appreciation. So I think just doing something kind for somebody is a kind of a good step, and live your life that way. And I think would be surprised at what happens. And so if you get yourself out of the basement, get yourself out of your house, and go do kind things for people as part of your daily routine.
I like that. That's really great. Do something nice. Do something kind through the path. I believe the path of kindness brings people together. And by the way, I want to say thank you for coming on, to my podcast. Um, it's a mutual respect, and I really appreciate how just pleasant this has been, and this experience, so we can share. And I do believe that you live what you say, just from this short time that we've been together. Plus, proof is in the pudding. So you're really strong with community. We're coming down to our last. Do you have 5 more? Can I get 5 more minutes?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Time is valuable, and I appreciate your time. So you're talking about, I guess, so we're talking about successes, which I like. What if someone is on the verge of like bankruptcy with their business, or they don't know what the next step is? The debt's getting too big. Their P&I it's bad. Their margins are bad. How would you advise somebody to look at, hanging in there, or maybe it's time to move to something else? What do you tell people when they bring these problems to you? Because I'm sure they do.
I think it depends on what their commitment level is, and what their overarching goals are. So I think that's a kind of, I don't, hopefully that doesn't sound like a cop out, but it's
No,
like
it
it
doesn't.
probably depends. I
Yeah.
think there's resources though, but I think reaching out. The one thing is I've seen people bury their head in the sand. It's easy to do. You don't want to face the pile of debt, or you don't want to face the inevitable, but it's coming. And so I would say find a way to be proactive by going out there and looking for resources that might be able to help you. And it might be, ask your insurance agent. Do they know anybody? Ask your realtor. Ask maybe even a customer or a supplier. A lot of times suppliers can help drive ideas, but there's also things within the chambers of commerce. If you're a small business, the chamber of commerce. If you have a banker, a business banker, they're usually well versed in the different kinds of programs that are out there. There's free advice on how to do your budgeting and things like that.
Yeah.
So in terms of like making the tough decisions, those are sometimes going to have to go down to your gut, or like what are you willing to sacrifice in order to make a difficult decision? Because many times when we get ourselves in, it's maybe we haven't managed our finances quite right, and that's why we have debt and so on. And then we have to just sort of figure out a way to make that right. So
That's really great advice, because we've all been there. We've all been there. We're like, do I continue this? Is it worth it? Could I transfer this to something different? So I
one thing
guess
I would say is don't burn bridges. It's if you're going through something difficult, it's really easy to say, well, forget that guy or forget those people. You never know. People come back around in your life that, as an older guy, I realize that people come back around in your life that want to help you, or I've seen it on the other side with people too. They come back and they burnt bridges. You come back around and there's those, you've got a reputation, and that's not a good thing to build. I mean, our name, our reputation, it's one of the most valuable things that we have. And so don't ruin some of the good things you have just because you're going through a difficult time. Deal with that with dignity and transparency. And some of those people might even want to help in some way.
Yeah, if you got to end a thing, end it professionally, end it with class. That's that happens. Warren Buffett says, from what I've read, I'm sure you study him as well. You only need to have two good yeses a year. You don't always have to say yes every time. Everything should be no, but and also Charlie Munger, who passed away, rest in peace, would say if you get one opportunity, you're lucky a year. But putting yourself in position to get lucky, hard work, I feel like, makes you lucky, and that really, I think, is a lot of where success lies, is positioning, timing, and community. Mark, what a great 45, 50 minutes. Thank you. Your time is valuable. You have committed to a guy that was a stranger to come on, and I appreciate that. I want to value your time. I want to give you the last word before we wrap, and I'd love to definitely explore later on. So many things you said, just I'd love to unpack them, but we don't have that time. So I tried to really get to the important stuff so that people can watch this and walk away and go, this was a great conversation. Because that's why.
Well, yeah, thank you. I would thank you for having me on the show. And what I would say is listen to something that you said early on. I want to make sure that we highlight that, and you be you. And just because Jason Daniel does something one way, or Mark Haney does it some way, other way, or Steve Jobs, or anybody else that you are might be trying to emulate, like that's all fine to have in your mind as information, but look within yourselves because the greatness is inside you. And so don't forget that it's in there and that it's just going to look a little bit different than Jason or Mark or Steve. It's your greatness is your greatness. And so look there for it versus only looking at other people that you might see on YouTube or Instagram or somewhere else.
That's a great way to end it. Thank you. That's great advice. Thank you, Mark. I want to tell everybody to follow Mark on IG and on the old YouTube machine. Everybody loves YouTube. Every day we're all watching it. Subscribe. Just go there. Go there right now. Maybe you're watching it on there right now. Subscribe. Give me a sub. That would be great. Also, we want to remind you, he is a co-founder of the Growth Factory. You can go and see it. It's a growthfactory.us. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
The CEO of HANEY Biz, and that's his other website. Check that out. And obviously his podcast. I'm going to be a religious watcher of your podcast, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm
on Instagram at the Mark Haney. So there's a lot of times there's little shorts on there. So if you want to see something, but I'm really accessible. If you're not, I'm the type of person that wants to help entrepreneurs. So if you're an entrepreneur and you have a question, send me an email. I'm typically the type of guy that'll give you a response or DM me or something like that.
Thank you, Mark. That's really wonderful. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, you have a great one. Have a good afternoon, and we'll stay in touch. Take care.
Sounds great. Appreciate it. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. And guys, we will sign up. Thanks for watching the Jason J. Daniels Show. And have a great Go with God. Via con Dios. Have a good one. Take care, guys.